Hello and welcome to another episode of Words with Myself.
People generally gear their life towards what they want, and most of what they do is somewhat in the pursuit of what they want. But there are many different kinds of want. There are short-term wants and long-term wants. One want could be that you want to go to a restaurant because you're hungry and you want to go out for food. One could be that you are going to work and working really hard so that you can save up enough money to travel in the next year. Someone might volunteer because they want to help people. Some might be learning the piano because they want to become a master of it. The point is, we all have different wants, and different wants to different varying degrees. Some things we want a little bit, some things we'd quite like, and some things we absolutely, with all of our heart, want. And that's something that we feel like our life won't be complete without. And on the other hand, we have things that we might not think that we want, but if something bad happens or there is an accident and something gets taken away from us, maybe we're injured or maybe someone dies even, and all of a sudden all we want is what we had. And we don't realise that we wanted that thing the entire time, yet we did want it, but because we had it, we didn't realise that we wanted it. And that's quite a juxtaposition, because people believe that the only things that you can want are things that you don't have. But that's not true. There is certainly aspects of yourself, even right now, that you want, that you choose to have because you want to have that. And even if you don't fully understand the context of why or what makes you want that, you are still making choices every day to ensure that that stays the same. So, for instance, you could say that you're unhappy with your life and you just wish it was different and you could have some other kind of experience and you weren't under all this pressure all the time, or you didn't have all these responsibilities. And yet, if you start asking questions to that person about some things you could take away from their life in order to make this new life happen, they would probably not want that. They wouldn't want the change because they might be asking for less responsibility, but if you said, okay, we'll take away your kids and your family and everything like that, and you'll have less responsibility. And they'll be like, no, of course not. No, I want my kids, I want my family. That's not, I don't mean that. I just want less pressure overall. I want less pressure at work. I don't want to have to keep earning money. And, there'll be some other more refined want than just generically, I want less responsibility. You start getting into the actual nature of what the true want is. It's sort of like those stories you had when you were younger where someone would be granted wishes, but they would be taken very literally, and whatever they wished for, that was exactly what they got, and they realised the folly of their wish. It might be that you say to the genie, I want to lose weight, and lose 20 kilos of weight, and then the genie removes your legs and then goes, there you go, you're 20 kilos lighter. And you go, well, that's not what I mean. But that's what you asked for. You asked for less weight, and that was what you were given. So when we have our wants, it's very important to be very specific about what we're actually asking for, to make sure that we have a clear vision on what we want. Because what we want, or what we think we want, isn't always what we actually want. A good example of this is, for years, when I was a kid, I wanted to be strong. Like, not just be able to lift heavy weights, for instance. I wanted to be like a warrior. I wanted to be impenetrable and an absolute resounding force. But the context of why I wanted to be strong, I didn't fully understand. I didn't understand why I wanted to be strong. I just knew that I did want to be strong. But really, what I wanted was safety and peace. But because I didn't have that, and because I always felt like I was at war with myself and the world, I wanted to be strong enough to overcome it. I didn't even contemplate there not being problems, or there not being discomfort or horrible things and traumatic things that you have to deal with. That wasn't really something that I even thought of. But I was obsessed with the idea of being strong enough, and so strong to the point where nothing could affect me, nothing could hurt me, nothing would be able to push me around or make me feel a certain kind of way. I'd be able to stand up for myself and protect myself, and I could be my own sense and place of safety. I could build that for myself. But what I really wanted was that place to exist, was for me to be able to feel comfortable, for me to be able to express my true self, for me to be able to feel at peace with myself and feel comfortable and protected. I was very aware that the world wasn't going to get safer, that things weren't going to accommodate me. I had to build something myself, to create something that would give me something that the world wasn't going to give me. But as I grew up and I was pursuing things that made me feel stronger, and that idea that it wasn't strength that I was after didn't really hit me until much later on, when I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I've gotten stronger. I'm able to deal with things. Like, how strong is strong? How strong do I have to be in order to feel this feeling that I'm looking for? And it didn't come because I was pursuing the wrong thing. I wasn't pursuing safety. You know, when you're pursuing strength, you're almost doing the opposite of safety. You are exposing yourself to risk. You're exposing yourself to things that are dangerous so that you can overcome them and get stronger. So what I wanted was peace and safety. But because I thought that what I wanted was to be strong, I was then removing all of the peace and safety and constantly throwing myself into things that were dangerous and uncomfortable. Now, this isn't to say that I was doing something wrong the whole time or that I made this huge mistake, because I didn't. Because if I had have had peace and safety, or if that was what I was pursuing, eventually it would have gotten to the point where I wanted the opposite, where I wanted to experience the chaos, where I wanted to experience what it was to be strong and to be tried and to go through traumatic experiences and to feel the pressure and still grow through it. So everything worked out exactly as it was meant to work out. What I'm saying is that we can be very convinced that we want something, that we are looking for something, we are waiting for it to give us this feeling, and yet that feeling is not attached to the thing that you want. Or the thing that you want isn't really the thing that you want. And you may have convinced yourself that, for instance, all you want is peace. And you just want to be away from people. You don't want people to bother you. You don't want to talk with people. You want no problems. You've had drama and problems your whole life. So all you want now is the opposite. You want to be in isolation and you want peace. But yet, that probably isn't actually what you really want. What you want is connection and community. But because what you know that you want and what you are focused on is the fact that you don't want to deal with, people and responsibilities and drama and all of the kind of things that come with people, we end up convinced that we want the opposite, that we want no people, because that seems like a logical conclusion. When I'm dealing with people, it's stressful, they're not giving me back the energy I'm giving them. It always feels like a drain. And I want the complete opposite of that. I want to feel like I've got energy, and when I'm away from all these people, I will have a lot more energy. But the opposite of what you don't want isn't necessarily what you want. It makes sense that it's that, and logically, as we think it through, that seems to make sense. Okay, I don't want this, so as far away from this is what I actually want. But rather than going to one or the other of the extremes, instead, likely what we want is a balance in the middle. We want relationships that give us energy. We want community that brings us together, that makes us feel connected, that we can share joy, share love, share experience with. Not the kind where it's always drama, there's always problems, it's people bickering, it's people fighting, it's people talking behind other people's backs, all of that kind of thing. That's not the kind of connection most people want. It's certainly not the kind of connection I want. And honestly, most of what I see from people in general, the connections that people have with each other, the relationships that people have with each other, I'm very much like, I don't want that. So it rules out a lot for me, which isn't actually a problem. It's something beautiful, because that means that the people that I will have a connection with will be very specific, and it will be very true, and it will be very aligned, because I have done the work to fully understand what I will and won't tolerate, what kind of friendship, what kind of relationships I do and don't want. what that means, my definition of that, has become well refined. I think that people who don't know what they want sometimes know themselves better than people who are absolutely convinced of what they want. Because people who don't know what they want have really sat and questioned about what they want. And they might not have come to a clear answer, or they might be talking themselves out of an answer, but they've really sat and questioned it a lot of the time. And yet people who know what they want have almost had this idea thrust upon them from something or someone or from some influence, and they've taken that and gone, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, and haven't really spent much time questioning whether they actually want it or not. And of course, this won't be the case for all the time. I'm not even sure if it's a majority of the time, but it certainly is the case. And for us, for yourself, to sit and ask yourself what you want can be a very challenging set of questions, because you can get caught by too many traps. You get too focused on what it really means to want something. You know, how happy will I be? What will make my life exactly what I want it to be? And yet you're not in control of your life. You're not in control of what happens. So creating this idea of this ideal life and this, you want it to go exactly this way, seems almost moronic, because it feels like you're setting yourself up for failure. You either get what you want and it doesn't live up to your expectations, or you don't get what you want and you end up disappointed. So what we are left with is to make the most of the present moment. And of course, that doesn't mean that you can't want things. It doesn't mean that you can't set out to have certain experiences, to achieve certain things. It's only to say that be careful of what you want. Be careful of what you think that you want. And really work to understand that and see it through. Understand what it is like to live that experience. If you meditate on it, right, and if you were able to watch yourself like a movie, live out every day of experience that you are living in your ideal version of yourself, right? Let's say that you want to be a Hollywood movie star and you're imagining yourself as an actor or actress showing up to play in your film or whatever, right? And you really hone that in to what the day-to-day looks like, from waking up in the morning to making your breakfast and getting out and reading a script and then going out and acting it out, to what you do in your free time and what your hobbies and interests are, who you can interact with, what your social environment looks like. All of that, if you really analyze it and sit with it, try to understand whether it is truly something that you would want, whether it truly aligns with who you are and what you want to represent. Understand why you want what you want, where that drive is coming from. What are you pursuing? What are you trying to get towards? It could be freedom. It could be enjoyment. It could be joy. It could be achievement. It could be power, success. Understand what is driving you. Understand where these needs are coming from and where they're not being met. Because just like my example, you could think that you want something, but it's really a need. It's something, that need for safety was being met by a will for strength. But that need for safety could have been satisfied by other things. I didn't feel safe and protected until I started building that into my life, into myself. I had to focus and prioritize that, because it wasn't enough to focus on strength. Strength didn't make me feel safe. It made me feel capable, and I liked that as well. But in order to feel safe, I had to start building in things that made me feel safe. Places where I could show up and be authentic. Places where I could express myself and be heard. Those things needed the work too. And if you are misaligned on what you want, the universe doesn't know what to grant you. You're asking for strength, so you are getting difficult situations. And that is making you stronger, because that's what you're asking for. If you are asking for safety, if you're asking for protection, that is a different request. And you need to be so clear and so in your mind have this strong vision of exactly what it is that you want and why you want it. And if you don't want anything, then that's fine. Then enjoy what you have. Be grateful for what you have. Live your experience now. But be careful, because a lot of times when people say they don't want anything, it really means that they are afraid that they either will or won't get it. So they have told them that they don't need it, that they are good without it. And that is a sort of pseudo sense of peace. You're saying that you don't want anything and you're happy, but you don't feel it. You don't feel happy. You don't feel like you're waking up and you're overjoyed every morning just to be alive and to have this experience. And if you're saying you don't want anything, but you're not really thrilled to be living your life and excited to wake up every day and do what you're doing and, just really enjoying your life, if that's not happening and yet you're still saying you don't want something, you don't want anything, then that is fear. You are afraid to lay bare what you want because you feel like you can't have it. So you're disqualifying yourself automatically. You're saying, well, that's not on the cards for me. So if I say I don't want it, maybe I will start to believe it. Maybe I will convince myself that that's not something that I want. And this is very common. People convincing themselves that they don't want things that they do really want just because of the fear that they will never have it or that it will never live up to their expectations. So be clear. Get to know yourself. Listen to yourself. Sit with yourself. Make space for yourself. Allow yourself to express what you want without judgment, without attaching or attacking yourself for what you want or what comes up. Just sit. Just be. Allow yourself to want, to dream, to express, to say, I would really like to do something, even if it's really odd. It might be that you're sitting there and it goes, I would really like to go to Mount Kilimanjaro. And you go, oh, where did that come from? I've never even thought about that place before. And then all of a sudden you start researching it and you go, actually, I would like to go there. That would be really interesting. And it might lead to a whole different set of experiences. But if you shut yourself down, if you start attacking yourself as soon as you begin to dream, as soon as you limit yourself and say, no, well, I can't have that, or, that isn't realistic, you start limiting your capacity to dream and desire, then it won't work. You have to allow yourself to be free with no restrictions, no limits. Just dream. Thank you for listening.